What is digital financial literacy? It's all about you being able to manage your finances, have acquiring the appropriate knowledge and skills in order to manage your finances. What are the appropriate knowledge and skills you intend to have in order to manage your finances? In this video, I'm going to be telling you about 10 financial literacy tips you ought to have. 10 digital literacy skills you ought to acquire in this year and years to come. You know, with the advance of technologies and artificial intelligence, technology is ever changing, and as such, the banking system or ways to manage finances are constantly changing too. And you ought to meet with this trend. In order to meet with this trend, you ought to be digitalized and acquire skills or knowledge. What are this knowledge? I bring to you 10 knowledge you ought to acquire in this time of artificial intelligence. First thing you need to know is online banking. Yes, online banking applications on how to manage your finance, how to do savings, withdrawals, and your bank statement. What is online banking? It's simply online platforms where you get to save and withdrawals with little or no charges, with you doing transactions and not displacing yourself at the comfort of your living room. You could actually carry out a transaction. So you ought to know online banking. It is a necessity, whether you're using PayPal or any other financial banking app, but you ought to acquire this knowledge. You ought to know online banking. You ought to know online. That is because it helps you to pay your bills electronically. You make payments and withdrawals electronically without displacing yourself. The second thing you ought to know is mobile payments. How can you use your mobile phones to carry out payments? How can I use my mobile phones to carry out payment? There are different applications and different apps you could actually use with your mobile phones in order to carry out your daily transactions. So the second thing you ought to study very well in this ever-changing technology system is mobile payments. We are getting to a system of cashless economy, so you ought to know mobile payments. How can I do my payments with my mobile phone? How can I sit and I do my transaction on mobile phone? How can I make transfers with my mobile phones? The third knowledge is budgeting and expense tracking apps. Budgeting and expense tracking app. In these apps, you get to calculate your budget, your expenses, and you're able to track all your transactions in a given duration, being periodically or annually. You get to track all your transactions in it. So this is the third skill you ought to know: budgeting and expense tracking apps. It helps you to really track all your events, all your transactions. You track them and you put them all online. Also, the next thing you ought to know is online investing. Online investing. How can I invest online? How can I study? How can I evaluate them? And how can I invest? How can I monitor investments? So, online investing is one of the trends right now, and you ought to be financially literate. You ought to know the various platforms and the various skills in order to effectuate. The fifth is digital identity protection. Digital identity protection. You get to protect your identity digitally. You get to protect your identity, being with a face lock, with a screen lock, with your fingerprint, with your eye. There are several methods you could actually protect your personal information. So this digital identity protection is expected of you to know which of the way is suitable for you to protect your information and which way is not suitable for you. Use what is best for you. Do not go with the trends, do not go with the flow, but do what you think is necessary for you. Do not do I, and tomorrow when you have an eye problem, it becomes very difficult for you to access your applications or your banking app. The sixth point you ought to know is financial education literacy. Financial education literacy. You get to get educational apps, educational seminars, educational webinars, podcasts, and so on. You get trainings on all that financial education. You get training on financial education on it. So consider financial education as one of the top trends you ought to study, and as the years are getting by and as we are approaching a system of cashless economy. The seven is comparison shopping. One of the financial awareness you ought to know is comparison shopping. How can I shop online? Where should I shop? Where should I not shop? Where are they having promotion sales? Where are they having deductions? Where are they Black Fridays? Put all that into account to able to compare between one shop to another. The one which you could substitute for another. So that is all about digital comparison or shop comparison. You compare the shops, you compare the markets. Just with your mobile phones, you could compare all the people in the market selling a particular good, and you you assume the most affordable for you. The eighth point is understanding digital payments. Understanding digital payment, being able to make payments or financial transactions using e-wallet or cryptocurrencies. Using e-wallets or cryptocurrencies in order to effectuate transaction. So that is the eighth point, being able to understand digital payment using your cryptocurrency, using any other means. Nine is digital receipts and records. Digital receipts and record. What are the digital receipts? How can I classify my receipt, my expense receipt, my expenditure receipts, my cash flow receipt? How can I classify all my receipts? They're actually applications on artificial intelligence which permits you to do all that. The application which permits you. The last but not the least is online scam prevention. You get to be informed, you are aware of trends and scams which are online, and it makes you not to be a victim of these scamming activities. It prevents you to be a victim of scamming activities. So in all you do, be financially literate, be digital literate, have a phone, have it an Android or an iPhone, whatever you can afford, in order to learn all these skills. Thank you for watching. It's been your host Finance with Magdalene. See you in our next video.